Howdy ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to Let's Talk. So wow, that didn't take long, did it? Last week, much to the chagrin of the Alberta population, at least the ones outside of Edmonton, I don't know what happened to this city. I really don't. Anyway, Premier Daniel Smith, signed a memorandum of understanding with the pathological liar named Mark Carney. And it was at its core, was about getting a much requested, needed pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast and a lift on the tanker ban and the removal of the emissions cap, which did nothing for the environment. And, just getting our product, our resource to market around the world so we're not reliant on the USA. It's baffling that this is such a contentious issue because this only helps Canada. Right now, Alberta pays a full 26% of the national revenue of Canada, just as one province. And we were offering to basically double that. Just help us get our oil to the coast so we can get it onto tankers and get it overseas to everybody that wants our product. And so much of the world wants our oil. But we have radicalized extremist alt-left lunatics in BC, in Quebec, and the Liberal Party, the NDP, the Greens, and the Bloc blocking this. It makes no sense. It hurts Canada, it hurts Alberta. It makes no sense. But so anyway, Carney and Smith came to a memorandum of understanding, and Smith took some backlash over this because she gave away far too much without getting anything in return other than ho hum, maybe. Like I said in other videos, if Daniel Smith was being legitimate, she should have told Mark Carney, great, you want this, you want this, you want this. We will do all of that when you build the pipeline and you lift the tanker ban and you put it into legislation so that nobody can undo it. You do that and we will give you what you want then. Instead, somehow the snake oil salesman convinced her to give a 600% increase to the industrial carbon tax that all that does is raise food costs and gas costs and hurt Canadians even more, because that's what Mark Carney stands for, is hurting Canada. And if you don't know that yet, you're a freaking idiot. So she was under the gun for this. So, it kind of looked like, okay, Mark Carney's going to try to walk a razor's edge to, give the impression at least there's going to be a pipeline. I mean, people paying attention knew there was never going to be a pipeline with Mark Carney. This is never going to happen. But you expected him at least to put on a false front. No, lasted 1 week and he just came out and voted against a pipeline. He voted against a conservative bill that used his exact wording from the Memorandum of Understanding, and he voted against it a week later. So there's no pipeline, there's no lifting the tanker ban, there's nothing. He just wanted his carbon tax increase. And I fully think Daniel Smith should turn around and go, you negotiated in bad faith, so we're not carrying through on this. As far as we're concerned, this is dead in the water until you live up to your agreement. I don't expect her to do that, and I think this just fuels the separatism even more, but that's what I would do if I was her. I would just turn around and say, you've already broken the agreement a week later, so yeah, we're not going to be held to it if you can't even hold to it for a week. So anyway, I have the Conservatives' response, Andrew Scheer, on this very issue. And I mean, this is disgusting politics by the Liberal government and the NDPs and the Greens. This is absolutely freaking disgusting. And anyone that still supports these deceitful pieces of crap, you should be ashamed. You really should be. You should be absolutely positively ashamed of yourselves. And it's really all I can say on it. So I'm just going to go to what Andrew Scheer has to say.
Well, good afternoon. It's clear as this session winds down that the Liberal government has been engaged in political games. They've basically been operating a deliberate campaign of self-obstruction, literally blocking their own agenda. For the past few weeks and months, we've seen all kinds of procedural tricks and games that Liberals have played that has had the effect of holding up their own agenda. Now, there's a few reasons why they might be doing that. It might be that after 10 years of government, they are still not very good at governing. When you look out at Canada, not much has really gotten better under Mark Carney than it was under Justin Trudeau.
Nothing's gotten better. Absolutely nothing has gotten better under Mark Carney. As bizarre as it is, it's gotten worse. And it was widespread that Justin Trudeau was the worst prime minister Canada has ever had in its entire history. Mark Carney's worse. I would have never thought it. Like, I knew Mark Carney was a snake oil salesman. I knew he was a pathological liar. I've done video upon video upon video of that, and you can go back and look at those. But so I knew who he was. The media wasn't telling the masses because, again, the Liberals own the media. But I knew who Mark Carney was. But even I didn't believe he was going to be worse than Justin Trudeau, because Justin Trudeau set the bar so low that it was inconceivable to think that somebody could be worse. But Mark Carney is worse. He has done more damage in 8 months now to Canada than Trudeau did. So it's 11 years. Canada's gone from having, what was it, a $5 billion surplus to a, what is it, $400 billion deficit? It's ridiculous. So,
second one, it could be because they're divided. It could be that they had to campaign on things that they did not believe in. When Canadians were sick and tired of Liberal policies that caused inflation, caused a housing price crisis, caused crime and chaos in our street, the Liberals had to pretend to change position on all those things, but in reality they haven't changed their minds, they haven't changed who they are, and they don't even support their own agenda. Or it could be because they're trying to lay the foundation for some kind of political narrative going into the future. But it doesn't really matter why they're doing what they're doing. The effect of what they're doing means that every day that they engage in political games and self-obstruction, Canadians fall further and further behind. Food prices keep going up. Visits to food banks keep increasing. More and more Canadians who have jobs are forced to go to food banks to supplement their groceries. None of this is acceptable. That's why Conservatives have proposed reasonable measures to balance off our job to provide scrutiny on behalf of Canadians as the government tries to proceed with its agenda.
So just on the food prices, I went to Costco the other day and I bought, I don't do a lot of impulse buying. So I bought my normal stuff, and my normal stuff a few years ago was $200. My bill this past just a few days ago, $460. That is the Liberal legacy on food pricing. And they want to push it up even higher because they want Alberta to multiply our industrial carbon tax by 600%. That's not a typo. That is 600%. Well, you do that to the industrial carbon tax, and that goes on gas, that goes on food, that goes on clothing, that goes on medical, that goes on everything. It's a tax upon a tax upon a tax.
Called for ministers to come to committee to answer questions on their own files, on their own programs, on their own departments, and we've been stymied at almost every committee at one point or another. When you look at the Liberals' first piece of legislation, Bill C2, they had to do a complete rewrite because they got it so wrong. They claimed they were going to come to Parliament with measures to strengthen the border and the immigration system. They threw so many other things in there that they had no support from any other party. They had to completely overhaul their own piece of legislation. Literally the first piece of legislation that they introduced, they had to do a complete rewrite. They themselves obstructed their own budget by delaying it until the fall rather than presenting it in the spring, as has been the case in Canadian history for literally generations. And of course, now with their own bail bill, Conservatives have been calling for Liberals to abandon their easy bail system. They brought forward a piece of legislation that doesn't go anywhere near far enough, but even that they can't proceed because they're canceling Justice Committee meetings and obstructing their own bills. So Conservatives are going to keep fighting for solutions to help with the affordability crisis, to fight hidden taxes on food, to stop inflationary deficit spending, and to bring real justice reforms so that Canadians can once again live in safe communities. Those are our priorities, and we hope that when the House resumes in the new year, that Liberals will have a change of heart. Maybe their New Year's resolution could be to take their job seriously and to work on behalf of all Canadians.
So what I expect to happen in the spring is they will prorogue the government so that the House will not sit, and then they will call an election. Because Mark Carney really wants a majority so that he can just authoritarian push through all that crap you see in the UK that is destroying the UK. That is what Mark Carney wants in Canada. Mark Carney helped devise those policies that are destroying the UK, him and Stalmer. And he wants to do that in Canada. So I don't think the House of Commons is ever going to sit again. I think Mark Carney's going to prorogue it, and then he's going to call an election. And we'll have an election in the spring to summer of 2026. And I pray to God it's going to be a majority for the Conservatives, because short of that, Alberta's gone. I'm calling it now. If Poilievre does not get a majority government and we don't get rid of the Liberals and the NDP and the Greens, Alberta's gone. They're done. Absolutely finished. And the Liberals can throw up as many roadblocks as they want. It's already been decided by the Supreme Court of Canada. So they have no say in it. They have no power in it. It was the Clarity Act went through into the Constitution. So the rules for separation are already established. So all this other nonsense that the Liberals keep talking about. And at the end of this video, I'll throw in a myth-busting video link to that I created some time ago. And I just went through the constitutional reforms and everything on, setting the record straight on what separation is about, because the Liberals and the CBC and the CT, oh my God, and Global, my God, are they just shoveling the BS. I heard the other day on Global radio that, you need a 65-70% majority in the vote to separate. No, you need 50.1%. 50.1% is a majority. You may not like it, but it's a majority. And we've had 2 referendums in Quebec under the 50.1, so the precedent is already set. So the Liberals are trying their damnedest to change the rules because they don't want Alberta to leave, and it's not because they love Alberta. They want Alberta's money. They want Alberta's oil. Alberta is who finances Canada. So anyway.
Thank you very much. Happy to have your questions.
You don't think their bills are going to do anything anyway? Why does it matter to you if they're not going to pass?
Well, as I mentioned, with Bill C, with the bail reform bill, we don't believe that goes far enough. But we have opened up an open hand to them and said it's better than nothing, and we would help that proceed. Instead, they've chosen to play procedural games at the Justice Committee, canceling their own meetings, obstructing, filibustering their own legislation. So it's very disappointing. So many Canadians are being terrorized by crime, and they're being terrorized by criminals who have been released under Liberal bail laws. There are people becoming victims of violent attacks in real time, and this government is playing procedural games at committees. It doesn't make any sense. That's why we're making this appeal today.
Wouldn't the Justice Committee study the bail law if it was allowed to get through the clause by clause, which is of C9, which is currently being filibustered by Conservatives?
Well, the crisis with the liberal easy bail is happening in real time. There are every day there's more reports of dangerous criminals who have had multiple convictions who victimize Canadians again and again. That should be a priority. We can at least bring some improvement to the system very quickly. It's the Liberal choice. They set the agenda at committee. They have the chairman's power to cancel meetings unilaterally. That's what they've been doing. There's no reason for it. The blame for a lack of action on bail lies 1,000% with the Liberal government.
Well, but you guys have obstructed it twice now, or rather filibustered it twice now.
Not on the bail bill.
No, but to prevent that happening so quickly.
We've been calling for them to bring the bail bill forward towards...
What you're seeing here is the problem with the Canadian media. Like, those are not reporter questions. Those are Liberal questions. She is playing or carrying water for the Liberals rather than asking actual nonpartisan, unbiased questions. Why is she not questioning all the additions to the bills that have nothing to do with the bills that the Liberals are trying to push through? It's like with the bail. If I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but I remember it was the bail, or it was one of the bills where it had absolutely nothing to do with it, but it's got all the censorship crap that's been defeated before, and the Liberals have pushed that in as a part of those bills. And that's why it's getting filibustered. That's why it's not passing. That's what the reporters should be asking about, is why are you not focusing these bills on these issues and leaving the other stuff out of them? If you want to push a censorship bill, push a censorship bill and it'll get defeated in the House of Commons. And they know this. So they're trying to slip it in. It's dishonest. And unfortunately, our media is so dependent on taxpayer money from the Liberals that they won't ask those questions. You get questions like you're hearing here.
The Justice Committee, they are the ones saying no to that.
How would you compare and contrast, say, the spring sitting, that few weeks post-election, and this fall run? Similar, different?
Well, it's a little bit tough to compare because the spring one was quite a bridge because of the election. But I will point out that Mark Carney himself said that he was a self-appointed master negotiator. He said that we would move, that his government would move at unimaginable speeds. That's what he said during the election when he needed Canadians' votes. There's been zero evidence of that. In fact, quite the contrary. He's failed at getting his own government legislation through, despite an opposition that has shown great willingness to work together on things.
What would you consider a win for the opposition in this setting? Like, if you reflect back, what's one thing you're like, hey man, we won that one?
Well, we forced the government kicking and screaming back to the table on their border bill and on the immigration bill, tightening it up, ensuring that the minister didn't have sweeping power to unilaterally extend various types of permits. We've forced the government to adopt our position on many aspects about the border bill. We've stood up for free speech. We've stopped the government overreach into using that piece of legislation to expand the government's power to control what Canadians can see and say online and that type of thing. So we've stood up for civil liberties while at the same time supporting measures that give our border guards real authority to enforce the law, and hopefully when we come back in the spring, we'll see real measures from this government with real bail reform. I mean, when someone steals their fifth, sixth, seventh car, they're a car thief. They need to be behind bars so they stop stealing cars. When people are being extorted, when I was growing up, I never heard of anybody in Canada who were victims of extortion. It was something you saw in mob movies and maybe in-depth reporting from journalists. It happened to very rarely. We're hearing reports from virtually every community in Canada where it's happening over and over again. This Liberal government has done nothing to address that. So we hope in the spring to come back with some meaningful criminal justice reform that will undo the damage that 10 years of Liberal easy bail policies have caused. Thanks very much.
So yeah, there was Andrew Scheer talking about it, but the Liberals are playing political games, and they're disgusting political games, and the NDP and the Greens are right in sync with them. But something Andrew Scheer did not mention is the Liberals love to come out and they keep saying, oh, well, the Conservatives are blocking this, and the truth is, all the Liberals need are 2 votes outside of the Liberal Party, and they can get any of their bills passed, be it the Bloc, be it the NDP, the Greens only have 1 seat, but the Bloc or the NDP. But instead, they don't actually want to work with the NDP and the Greens. They end up working like the NDP. I don't know what the hell the NDP is doing. Your party got absolutely demolished because you are linked to the Liberals. So what's the NDP doing? They're getting linked to the Liberals. Stupid people. There's no other way to put it. The NDP are absolutely stupid people. And so are the Bloc, for that matter. But the Liberals are playing games because they don't want to work with anyone. So they're blaming the Conservatives. Oh, we're not getting this through and we're not getting this through. What the Carney wants is he wants his majority. He's not interested in passing these bills with the help of others. He wants his majority so that he can push these bills through at the cost of anything. He doesn't have to deal with anyone else. He doesn't have to negotiate with anyone else. Make no mistake about it. Mark Carney's not this grand negotiator that he claims to be. If he was, he would have a deal with Trump already. He's not this, or he would have a deal with somebody other than Indonesia, but he doesn't. He's not a grand negotiator. His form of negotiation is if he has a majority and he can push, ram, shovel whatever he wants through without objection. That's the only way he knows how to do anything. And he doesn't have that right now. And you can tell on his face, he's not happy about it. He's bitter about it. David from Moose on the Loose goes through the body language all the time, and you can tell Mark Carney is absolutely livid that the peons of the world, because he looks down on everybody. Make no mistake about it. He does not look even at his own party as equals. He looks down on it. He thinks he is above everyone. Maybe a short man complex because he's so bloody short, but he looks down on everybody, and it pisses him off that he has to beg and negotiate. That's not how Mark Carney does things. Mark Carney thinks everyone should do what he says and not question him and be done with it. And yeah, so, but the truth is, he needs 2 votes from the NDP or from the Bloc, and his bills would get passed. But the Bloc and the NDP are not willing to just arbitrarily pass his bills. They want things in return, and that's where Mark Carney refuses to negotiate. So even that doesn't work. So I don't, like I said, I don't think the House of Commons will resit in the spring. I think he will prorogue Parliament, and then he will call an election, because he firmly believes he has a majority in him. I don't. I honestly don't. You know, the Conservatives won extra seats last election, and since the last election, unemployment, job loss, our inflation, it's all gotten worse under Carney. So I honestly think the Conservatives will win the next election. I just don't know if it'll be a majority. And for Poilievre's sake, he needs a majority, because if he's a minority government, I don't think that's enough to keep Alberta happy. Alberta is not interested in negotiating. Well, Alberta, kind of like Carney in a sense, we're not interested in negotiating anymore. Here's what we want. Here's what we give to Canada. It's time for somebody to step up and back us. Because since the very early days, here's a cartoon from the very early days. You can take a look. And from the very early days, Eastern Canada has been taking advantage of Western Canada. And that has to stop. And if it's not going to stop, you're going to see Alberta and Saskatchewan leave. And that'll cut off the welfare to Quebec. So then you'll see Quebec leave, because Quebec's only in Canada because of the handouts. And once that happens, Canada's dead. And that'll all be on Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau. Nobody else. I mean, the left-wingers will blame everybody else because they're in permanent victimhood mentality. But the truth is, that'll all be on Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens. Not even the Bloc. I can't even blame the Bloc for that one. You know, the Bloc put up a bunch of barricades that shouldn't be put up, but the Prime Minister has the power, the authority to bypass that if they have the internal strength to do it, which Mark Carney clearly is a very weak, shallow, fragile, tiny person. I can't even call him a man. Just a tiny, tiny person. So anyway, interesting time ahead. We're coming into holiday season, and then after that, we'll see if I'm right or not. And I will be very interested in seeing what Daniel Smith has to do about Mark Carney reneging on the MOU just a week after it was signed. I mean, Daniel Smith is insanely popular in Alberta. And I mean, I like her. I didn't like her at first. She said something like, I'm a moderate. Okay. I get accused of being a conservative all the time, because to the modern day left, anyone who is not radicalized extremist alt-left is a conservative or a Republican. That's how their minds work. Sorry, that's not how reality works. I am a moderate. I am not a conservative member. I'm not a United Conservative Party member. But I pay attention, obviously. And Daniel Smith said something that really sent off warning bells when she was running for the UCP membership. She was asked what female politician she most is enamored with or styles herself after. And I don't know what she was thinking. I hope she fired whoever told her to answer this way. But she said, Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I'm like, what? You just named probably the most corrupt political figure in the 20th century as your mentor. Like, what were you thinking? And I got to be honest, if I was a UCP member, I would not have voted for Daniel Smith for UCP leadership because of that statement. That was a dumb statement. But ever since she did get elected, she has been, I would say, 85% golden for Canada, for Alberta. Like, she stands up for Alberta. She does. I may not agree with everything she does. Like, I think her policy with age is absolutely atrocious. But overall, I think she's done an excellent job for Alberta. So there was last year they did a review, and she had a 91% approval rating. So, I mean, the NDP here in Alberta are playing stupid little, corrupt little games with recalls. The whole recall thing was meant to get rid of politicians in ethnic scandals and everything. And Daniel Smith wanted to make it easier for people to get rid of these problem MPs. Well, the NDP, as they always do, have used it to their own designs, and they got like 20 different people on recall. They're all going to pass. Like, the UCP is not losing any members, and on the off chance we go to an election, it just means the UCP is going to win an even bigger majority. Nobody is electing the NDP again outside of Edmonton. So it's a waste of taxpayer money. It's a giant waste of taxpayer money. But it's the only thing the NDP in Alberta have, because nobody votes for them except for Edmonton, you know. But Edmonton does not get to dictate who the government is. So anyway, that's my video for today. If you like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And please come in, tell me, what do you think of Daniel Smith? What do you think of Carney? What do you think of the Conservatives and their motions? Do you think I'm correct that we're not going to see the House of Commons sit again and we'll be going to an election? Come in and let me know. And as always, pew 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.